Welcome to the Town of Londonderry ZBA Board of Adjustment for March 15th, 2023. We have a few cases for tonight's hearing, so before we go through the cases, I'd like to go over how the procedure will roll out. So when your case is called, you'll come up to the front here. You will state your name and address for the record. You will then do the application that you're here for. You go through the 5 points of law. Then I will take it to the board members, see if they have any questions. If they have none, we'll take it out to the audience. The audience will, if they have any questions, if anyone is for or against, the applicant will be given the opportunity in which to respond. After that occurs, we take it back to the board. If there's no further questions, then we close the hearing. We go over the 5 points of law and determine the outcome. We ask that anyone that comes up that is for the applicant or against the applicant, when they come up to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. And we ask that there is no conversation between the applicant and anybody asking the questions. Everything must come through the board, as that will allow one voice in which we can proceed with all the facts of the case. We ask that you at least put your cell phones on vibrate or turn them off during this meeting. If you do not want to stay till the end, you may go to, they can go the next morning, correct? You would have the postings of everything tomorrow morning?
If they want to continue?
If they don't want to stay for the outcome?
Yes, yeah.
So you can go right to, come back to the town hall, and tomorrow morning you could get the results of your case if you do not want to stay for the outcome. So before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to have, is Beth going to be here tonight?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, she came in when I came in.
Okay, so I guess we'll start. Nick, will you start us off?
Nick Gardner, building inspector.
Mike Malaguti, I'm the town manager.
Kelly Karen, Assistant Town Manager, Director of Economic Development.
And we have a new member this evening. Robert, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Bob Robichuk from 13 Clover Lane, and I'm a new alternate to the ZBA.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Irene Macarelli. I'm a full member.
Brendan O'Brien, full member.
Jackie Bernard, full member.
Suzanne Brunel, full member.
Mitch Feig, full member.
Chris Moore, alternate member.
And Beth, we never want to forget you. Okay, so first order of business, the minutes to approve from the February 15th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Do we have a report by the town council liaison this evening? And we do not. And Kelly, could you go over the regional impact determinations for this evening?
Sure. So the first is related to the first three cases on the agenda this evening. Request for a variance from LZO 4.4.1.3.a.1 little a to encroach 9.4 feet into the 30-foot front setback for an existing building. 43 Harvey Road, map 14, lot 44-2, zoned industrial 2. 43 Harvey Road, Realty Inc. is the owner and applicant. Within this same impact determination, it's section LZO 4.4.1.3 H1 to encroach 9.4 feet into the 15-foot green space for an existing building, and LZO section 4.4.1.3 D1 to allow outdoor storage of company-owned vehicles. And staff is recommending this is not of regional impact.
And do I have a motion for regional impact?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will now be in the public hearing.
I've got two more.
Excuse me, pardon?
I have two more.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
The next is related to case number 4 this evening, which is a request for a variance from LZO 4.1.2 use table to allow manufacturing in the C1 zone, which is otherwise prohibited. 44 Nashua Road, Unit 17, Map 7, Lot 67, Zoned C1. Lehman Corporation is the owner and Paul Kelly is the applicant. And staff is recommending this is not a regional impact.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the last is related to the last 4 variances this evening. Request for a variance from LZO 4667F5B to allow an existing sign with a height of 17 feet, whereas a maximum of 10 feet is permitted. Variance from LZO 46675, F5CI to allow an existing sign with an area of 63 square feet, whereas a maximum of 30 square feet is permitted. Request for a variance from LZO 4667 F5D to allow an existing sign within 10 feet of the front property line. Request for a variance from LZO 46675 FEI to allow an existing pole sign, whereas a monument type sign is required. And a variance from LZO section 4667 F4B to allow a wall sign with an area of 96 square feet, whereas a maximum of 30 square feet is permitted in the Route 102 overlay in C1 district, 107 Nashua Road, map 6, lot 35-1, zone C1 in overlay 102, 107 Nashua Road Properties, LLC is the owner, and John Manellis is the applicant.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? All right, now to the public part of our meeting this evening.
Case number 315-2023-1, a request for a variance from LZO 4.4.1.3.A.1.A to encroach 9.4 feet into the 30-foot front setback for an existing building, 43 Harvey Road, map 14, lot 44-2, zone industrial 2, 43 Harvey Road Real Estate, Inc., owner and applicant.
Good evening, welcome.
Welcome, thank you. I am, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I am Jordan Young from Atlantic Civil Engineering. I'm representing 43 Harvey Road. And this is John with Mainline Plumbing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm just noticing that the television behind you isn't turned on. Would it bother you if I came and did that
No problem.
so the TV can pick it up?
Yep.
I got you.
I just need to reach up at the top with the arrow. And then easy. And then the HDMI port. Oh,
Thank you.
nice. Thank you. Next one doesn't work. So sorry. You may
That's all right.
proceed.
Alright, so our property here is located 43 Harvey Road, at the intersection of Burton Drive and Harvey Road. This is a corner lot and it's currently in the Industrial 2 zone. The owner of this property is looking to change this building to, it currently is a living space with 2 tenants. He would like to change this to a business, which is Mainline Plumbing. The variance we're requesting is encroaching on the 30-foot front and building setback. And I noticed in the variance, I may be reading this wrong, but it did say encroaching 9.4 feet.
Incorrect.
Okay. I just want to clear that up. We are encroaching 20.4 feet because it currently is 9.6 feet off of the front property line. So that's where that number comes from. So we're not going to change the building. There will be 6 offices in this building. There will be no more tenants, no more living space. Primarily a business. We are proposing 54 spaces. And obviously we'll talk about the location of those spaces later on. But we have 2 entrances, one on Burton Drive and one on Harvey Road. Now, I think that's it. If you would like to ask any questions?
So you'll need, do you have your application with you?
I do.
You'll need to go through the 5 points of law, please.
Okay. The first one, the variance will not be contrary to public interest. The building's staying as is, and we're asking to change the use to a permitted use in this industrial 2 zone. Right now it's a residence, which is actually not permitted in this zone. So we believe this will not impose on any public interest because of that. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. This is kind of like I said before, we're changing this to a business which matches the surrounding buildings, which more aligns with the ordinance, what we're proposing. So, number 3, substantial justice is done. I want to state that the owner has trouble keeping tenants because he's surrounded by commercial properties. So, as you would expect, it's hard to keep tenants that are living surrounded by buildings. So, if this is denied, then it's gonna stay as a residence, and it does provide a loss to the owner just because he's trying to match the ordinance as it currently doesn't. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. I believe we hold true on that as well, just because the surrounding properties are businesses, and the building, if it's denied, the building's still going to stay as is inside that front building setback. So if we change the use, we're going to match everybody around us. Number 5, literal enforcement of provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. No fair or substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provisions and specific application of that provision to the property. I just basically reiterate that the building currently sits 9.4 feet from the property line. The hardship is we can't just pick up the building and move it, or demolish and rebuild. The owner just would not do this project if that was the case, and then the building is still there. The proposed use is a reasonable one. I believe this is true because we're in the correct zone for what we're asking, what we're proposing. If the criteria of subparagraph A are not established, well, I believe we did establish them. And that is all.
Okay. Kelly, since we have a typo in the case for the record, it says it's going to encroach 9.4. Is just calling this out on the record to state that it should have.
That's fine. His application says 20.8
It does say 20.6.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. I just want to make sure we didn't have any problems and then have to make you come back
Okay.
for a technicality. Does anybody on the board have any questions of the applicant?
I have a question. I'm assuming that this building was built pre-zoning.
It was prior to 19.
Right, 1993,
93,
inside
yes.
the current 30-foot front setback.
Yeah.
Do we need to see these two first cases if they're just looking for the use? Or really what they're here for is the third one, because the building is already in that front setback. Correct me if I'm wrong, but why?
It's not pre-zoning. We had zoning in 93.
Yeah.
So it's not pre-zoning.
He meant the requirement of the 30 feet.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not sure we need to, in my opinion, if it was built, I'm just not sure why we have to see this.
Because it's going to be a different use,
Yeah.
so that's why it doesn't
Change of
conform now.
use.
It's change of use.
But
So that's
and
why
it's-
it's to come back.
Your question was zoning different then, so they didn't need, do we know that if they needed a variance when they built the building?
I'm not, I would suggest it doesn't matter because
Right.
we're hearing from them that they
Change of use.
want
Okay.
to undertake a particular use today and it is an existing requirement today.
Okay.
So you have to conform, so that's why they're here.
I
Okay.
think if I could just add too, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Right.
So anytime you make a change and it requires a permit or approval, you have to come into today's standards.
Okay.
Or seek the appropriate relief.
And when they came for zoning previously, they did not have to go through these because it was for the sign, the offsite sign.
For the previous zoning
Correct.
relief? That would be my understanding, but I don't,
So they didn't go through it when they did the previous zoning, but now they have to go through it for the use change.
Because as soon as a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming wants to change anything, they must come before the board.
Thank you.
There you go. Better. Does anyone else have any questions? So the name of, you said it's going to be a plumbing, business?
Yeah, do you want to get
Okay. And you currently have resident tenants there?
Yes.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're having a hard time keeping residential residents in that tenant currently because of the surrounding industrial
Yeah.
things around?
There's been previous tenants. There is tenants right now.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Okay. I'd like to take it out to the audience. Anyone in favor of the applicant? Let the record show that there is no one. Anyone in opposition? Let the record show that there is no one. Does anyone have any other questions of the
I did
applicant?
have one, I'm trying to think if this goes with this, was there gonna be 6 offices, is that it, for this one company?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
That's just for now.
Right, fair enough.
And I do have one more question. How large is that building right now? Roughly?
I can quote that on the page, but I believe it's right around 3,200
Okay,
upstairs and downstairs.
okay,
Cumulative.
great. Okay, and if we've got nothing from anybody on the board, we will close and we will deliberate on this case. Anybody need to ask any questions, hash anything out, or can we go into the 5 points of law?
I'm fine going with the 5 points.
I'm good.
I have never seen this property.
What?
Right?
Yeah. And
I drive past it all the time and I've never noticed it.
Oh my gosh, I have.
for as long as I
right,
lived here.
right between Pipe Dream and Stony.
The reason why I've noticed it, because I said, oh my gosh, how is this resident able to deal with all this
Yeah.
around them?
Didn't the tenants come? Wasn't there? Didn't Pipe Dream want to serve food? in the
Yes.
residence? I think these tenants came. I
Yes.
think they might have come to that.
Yes. Yes.
That was the only reason I was aware of it because I've driven past it and never. I don't know. Like I know where it is. When I drove past it, I was just like, I've never seen that house. It's bizarre.
Well, it's within all the industrial, there's
No,
stuff
it's-
around,
Yeah.
Exactly.
so it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Hey, I did have a question for Nick. Nick, you've been out there, I assume, by now. Is there any issues with them coming into that close to the road in terms of sight lines? Or any issues for safety for people?
No.
Okay.
There's no obstructions in front of the building between the house and the road.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
Thank you.
okay, it's like the house is just stuck right in
Right.
this open
I
field.
think I looked at it a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Alright, well, let's go through the 5 points of law.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because I would say would not.
I agree. I agree.
I agree.
Nothing's
agree.
changing, so it doesn't change.
Not altering the character of the neighborhood. In fact, he's bringing it more in line with the character of the neighborhood.
And there is no public health concerns.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because I would say would.
I agree.
Right?
Same reasons as one.
Absolutely.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because
It would.
I agree.
Agree.
I think it's a greater loss to deny it. Not changing anything doesn't harm the public.
I agree.
For the following reasons, values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. I would say would not,
I would agree.
I agree would not.
because it's an industrial zone. Owing to special conditions to the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because I would say there is not.
I agree.
I agree.
That's a pretty unique property.
Extremely
Just
unique.
given its size, it's on a corner, it's in an industrial zone.
I would agree.
It's completely surrounded by industrial.
Right. The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because I would say
It
is.
Is.
Leaving the home where it is reasonable.
Yes.
I agree.
Comments, restrictions.
I have
So-
none.
There was a recommendation for a site plan approval, but that has to be done anyway, so I'm not sure why we would include that on there.
I wouldn't.
Condition of the approval if you
Make a
grant the
condition.
variance.
Oh, they have to get a site plan approval in any event?
You should condition the variances on it
Condition of variance.
I don't understand why.
to make sure that they understand that they need it.
Okay. So what we're saying, and you're an engineer, so you already know this, that the next step, should we approve it, is that you would have to go in front of the planning board and get site plan approval.
Mhm.
So they're suggesting that we put that on as a condition of the approval.
Mhm.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
So pending site plan approval.
This says the petitioner shall obtain site plan approval from the planning board for the proposed use. Well, I didn't draft it,
I know.
but it does.
I did read it, yeah.
set.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-1 to grant the request for a variance with the condition that the petitioner shall seek a site plan approval from the planning board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-1, the request for a variance was granted with the condition that the petitioner will seek the obtained site plan approval from the planning board. Case number 315-2023-2, a request for variance from LZO 4.4.1.3.h.1 to encroach 20.6 feet into the 15-foot green space for an existing building, 43 Harvey Road, map 14, lot 44-2, zone industrial 2, 43 Harvey Road, Real, Inc., owner and applicant.
Another correction.
For
Sorry.
this one, go ahead and state your name for the record.
I'm Jordan Young with Atlantic Civil Engineering.
And your presentation is, for this case, is as the first one. Okay. Do we have any questions of the applicant in regards to encroaching 20.6 feet into that 15-foot green
Is
space?
it 20.6 feet? Okay.
Yep, 20.6. It's
Is the applicant saying no?
So it's what I'm reading, it's 9.4 feet back from the front property line. So it's not 20.6, I apologize. It's,
Okay.
It's because it's a 15-foot green space, it's
Okay.
gonna be 5.6.
thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I did the.
Yeah, I was, and I
was
just
so
crossed.
focused on doing the 30 from before that I didn't even read it was a 15.
Okay.
I apologize.
So for the record, it's 5.6 feet into the 15-foot green space. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant in regards to this? Okay, I'm going to take it out to the audience. Anyone in favor of the applicant? Let the record show there is no one. Anyone against? Let the record also show that there is no one. Bring it back to the board for any further questions on green space. Okay.
Jackie, did they, or is it the same thing as
It's exactly
before?
the
So,
same,
okay,
yep.
I didn't double check.
Existing condition.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna close it, the public portion. Let's go in. Do we need to discuss anything on this one? Okay, let's go into deliberation. Into the 5 points of law.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because I would say it would not because nothing is changing to alter the general character of the neighborhood.
I agree.
I agree.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because I would say would because of the same reasons as the first question.
I agree.
Granted the variance would do substantial justice, would or would not do substantial justice because I would say would because granting the variance will not cause any loss to the public.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
You all set, Suzanne?
Yep.
Perfect.
Speak up if I'm not following.
Just wanna make sure Beth gets all her votes.
For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. I would say would not because the area is industrial zone.
I agree.
I agree.
Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because I would say there is not. Property is unique, it's on a corner, it's surrounded by an industrial zone.
I agree.
proposed use is or is not a reasonable one? Because I would say it is, because leaving the building where it is reasonable.
I agree.
Yep, I agree.
Do I have a motion?
Comments, restrictions?
The site plan as well.
Not on this one. The site plan will be all of it.
Because, yeah, this is just
Okay.
green space.
Just the first one, just
Yeah.
space. Okay. I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-2 to grant the request for variance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-2, the request for a variance was granted. Case number 315-2023-3, a request for a variance from LZO 4.4.1.3.d.1 to allow outdoor storage of company-owned vehicles, 43 Harvey Road, map 14, lot 44-2, zoned industrial 2, 43 Harvey Road, Real, Inc., owner and applicant.
Question on this one.
I do too.
All right. I'm going to give a description of.
Just go right, you have
Go
your
right in.
applicant right there. You can just read right from the first request for a variant, number 1.
Okay. This variance will not be contrary to public interest. The proposed parking lot is between Burton Drive and the building, and we are going to provide vegetation on Burton Drive and Harvey to screen the public from these vehicles that are being stored overnight. And it's we believe that this should satisfy the public, and it is taken into consideration that the surrounding properties are commercial, and they do this as well. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The location of the location of the home on this corner lot presents a challenge to meet this requirement. Because it is placed over in the far left corner, which is the north corner, and this requirement would not allow any parking between Burton Drive and the building, which would eliminate most of the possibility of parking for a business. So I believe we are still observing the spirit of the ordinance, just because of the location and the zone of this business. Substantial justice is done. If this variance is denied, then the business will not be able to be run without this parking, and there is no other location for parking with the wetland setback and the building line to the Burton Drive being restricted. There may be 8 spaces possible there, and the developer won't be able to run a business with 8 spaces. The values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished. I said this before, but we're going to screen the public with vegetated screening, so it'll be very hard to see these few vehicles that are being stored overnight. Number 5. Literal enforcement of provision of the ordinance would result in any unnecessary hardship. For the purpose of this, no fair or substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provisions and the specific application of the provisions to the property. because of this is a corner lot and it's an existing home in that location on the property, this is a big hardship to run a business with 8 spaces being allowed. I think that's a very big hardship. Is this a reasonable one? Again, we are asking to change living space to a business. Therefore, we need to be able to run the business that we are changing it to in this zone, and we believe this is reasonable. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members?
What's the size of the lot again? Over 5 acres?
5.11 acres.
So there's no other place to park vehicles in the 5-acre lot?
It's all wetlands and wetland setbacks.
It
That
all is wetlands?
well, you can see on the map.
Yeah.
See that dashed line
The entire back half.
right up there? Yes.
That's the buffer line.
Yeah, the buffer line, and then right below that is the wetlands.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
How many spots are you proposing in total? I didn't see the number on it.
54.
54. Okay. And will all 54 be occupied?
No.
How many do you anticipate will be occupied?
Occupied, I think I answered too quickly. Occupied as the vehicle storage or occupied
As
Oh.
vehicle storage, yeah.
vehicle storage? Very few. It's just the actual vans that they use on the daily basis. So you won't see them during the day, but there may be, 8 or 9 vehicles that are parked there overnight. So very few.
So why do you need 54 spots for 8 vans?
Because they have personal vehicles, they have utility vehicles, they have all these other vehicles that are not being stored, but there's only very few stored.
Okay.
So there'll be more vehicles there during the day.
Yes.
When the vehicles that are stored overnight aren't there.
Yes.
What are your hours of business?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
How many workers, how many employees do you have from out of this location?
I believe currently is what? 25?
No, 5.
Oh, 5 right now. But
We plan on doubling that by the end of the year.
yeah, so each year they're doubling, so they need the space to grow. And then you take into consideration that each one of these employees will have a personal vehicle. Many vehicles. It's not just they need several parking spaces.
Okay. At this location, this business location, will you have private people coming in or
Private people.
Customers.
customers
Citizens.
coming in?
No. No.
Okay, because you go to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I have no further questions.
I did, so I'm still trying to figure out, what's the spot need? So if you have 5 people, maybe you store 6 vehicles and people park their vehicles, then there's 10. Are you anticipating just 10? I mean, you have 6 offices, so I'm assuming people are working in offices as well. So how many people are working there during the day?
Exactly. So you're going to have, eventually, the plan is to, within 2 years, I want to have all 6 of those office spaces filled. So that's 6 people driving in, plus the owner of the business, plus me, and then all the technicians on the other side. The trucks also, our trucks aren't the size of a regular vehicle either. They're much larger. They take up a little bit bigger space too.
Okay, right, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll take it back out to the audience one more time. We've got nobody. If we're good, we'll close the deliberations.
Well, let me ask one more question. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Is there any intent to use those spaces for any other reason or just for the business?
Just for the business.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, I will close, and do we need to hash anything out, or can we go into the 5 points of law?
I think the only concern is the number of vehicles that are parking there overnight. So there's nothing to stop them from allowing other businesses to allow their vehicles to park there overnight. I don't know that we care, but it's a thought.
Maybe
I assume the
Well,
thought behind not allowing outdoor storage of your vehicles overnight was site.
Well, that whole area though, the brewery has issues. The next business parking lot, they have issues with parking. So that whole area has parking
So the
issues.
point is,
Well, there's no parking really for everything that goes on there during the day and night.
Well, I mean, are we sort of in agreement that the parking there should be for that business and there, we could put a restriction for that purpose? Unless you're saying, no, the parking's tough in that area anyway.
Well, no, I mean, there's already a lot of disagreement on what goes on after hours anyways in that
Right.
area. Right now, it's just sand, it's,
but understand if we grant this variance, then they can, if there's 56 spots, they could store 56 cars overnight.
yeah, but the applicant says that right now they have 5 employees, they wanna double to
And
10.
I understand, but you understand if we grant the variance, where we're going.
So we could put a restriction, just parking is for this business or this, people who work at this.
Well,
That's what I'm asking. I mean, that's sort of our conversation.
well, that's to police that, that's,
Right.
Well, but
I agree.
you can't police that, and that's private property, that's well beyond our purview.
I don't necessarily know that's a bad place to have people park either.
Well,
I agree.
It's good for the conversation. It's sort of the conversation I wanted to have.
I
mean,
agree that, especially if
issue.
they do what they say and they do screen it from the front and the side. Honestly, you won't notice how many cars are parked there.
Because right now, that whole corner is, it's really sort of an eyesore because there's a lot of, just, not this particular tenant, but previous, there was a lot of debris out there and it was just, it's always been like a hard thing to look at.
Yeah,
Compared to all the other businesses around.
it doesn't quite fit right
It
now.
doesn't
anyways. Yeah.
So in that
It-
zone,
Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
No, that, if he's applying for a variance, and you already did the other case being pending, approval of a planning board's review of his site layout, it's a non-conforming use, you're gonna increase your parking and apply with a set of civil engineering drawings, right? For this project, make it contingent on approval by the planning board or whoever has approval rights over his layouts, including the green space and the screening and the parking layout.
Well, he's coming for a variance for outside storage of
Of vehicles.
company-owned vehicles.
okay,
So I think that
That's a fair point.
okay.
that
I like
sort of
that.
wraps it up.
Right, if we approve for that, that's exactly
That's
what
exactly
That's
what
what
has
it's
to
gonna-
happen there,
Right.
so.
Okay, that's
Right.
fair.
We're fair enough? Can we go into, okay, let's do the 5 points.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because I would say would not.
I agree.
Agree.
It doesn't change the essential character of the neighborhood.
It does not.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because I would say it would. No threat to public health, safety, welfare.
I agree. I agree, okay. Mitch, do you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because I would say would.
Would.
I don't think there's a gain to the public by denying the variance.
I agree.
I agree.
For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. I would say would not,
Would not, agree.
because it's an industrial area.
Correct.
Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because I would say there is not. Yeah, it's a unique property, it's a corner property, it's in the industrial zone.
It's conservation land
Right.
around,
Yep, he has the, yeah.
or what's it?
He has all the
Conservation,
wetlands.
Wetlands.
So that
It's the
uniqueness
wetlands.
allows them to park company vehicles there. You somehow make that leap.
Because he's already, the building and that whole parcel, the way that it's, where the building is and the way it's laid out and the wetlands behind it, he only can park.
I'm gonna.
Madam Chairwoman, so I guess the right way to say it would be that the extent of the wetlands on the property are a hardship because they're extensive. So it limits the amount of buildable or area you could pave over or use for parking. So it's basically existing hardship of that extent of wetlands, right?
Correct, and being a corner lot.
And a corner lot.
But I still don't get how that allows you to park cars overnight. So I will just be that it. To me.
Well, storage of company-owned vehicles, that's what we're granting the variance for.
Correct.
Outdoor storage of company-owned vehicles, where that's not allowed at the moment.
Which would be overnight parking.
But an industrialized zone, to run a business there,
That doesn't allow outdoor storage of company-owned vehicles.
but it can.
But it
If-
can,
If you give it a variance,
correct.
yes, okay.
The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because
I'm a no on that one, by the way.
Oh, so Suzanne's a no on that, on hers.
I'm not getting a connection there.
Okay. But we had four,
we had 4.
we had four,
How
okay.
much today?
The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because I would say it is reasonable to have company vehicles outside at
I would
night.
agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Comments, restrictions.
I have none. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-3 to grant the request for a variance from LZO 4.4.1.3.d.1 to allow outdoor storage of company-owned vehicles, 43 Harvey Road, map 14, lot 44-2, zone industrial 2, 43 Harvey Road, Real Inc., owner and applicant.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-3, the request for a variance was granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good evening.
Ready for the next one?
Ready?
I have to recuse myself for the next case.
Okay.
Case number 315-2023-4, request for a variance from LZO 4.1.2 use table to allow manufacturing a brewery in the C1 zone, which is otherwise prohibited, 44 Nashua Road, Unit 17, Map 7, Lot 67, Zone C1, Lehman Corporation owner and Paul Kelly applicant.
And before we continue, Robert, would you like to be excused now for the rest of the evening? Are you okay to
I'll
stay?
stay till about 8:30.
Okay,
Not a rush.
okay.
Give us a good brewery conversation. Thank you very much for asking.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Hello.
Please state your name for the record.
Paul Kelly.
And your address for the record?
44 Nashua Road, Unit 17, in Londonderry.
Thank you. And you may begin.
So I'm requesting a variance for the manufacturing portion of a brew pub in that location. It's currently not zoned for manufacturing. I believe it's retail only. And we're currently in the process of putting in a restaurant and looking to basically add the brew pub portion to the restaurant so that I can ultimately offer my customers beverages other than just my own beer. I currently do that now in my current location. We offer cider and seltzer as other options, but I wouldn't be allowed to do that at this location as retail only. And it has to do with the liquor commission laws around owning breweries and the 3-tier system.
All right, so you can either do the 5 points of law now, or does anybody have any questions before the applicant does the 5 points of law? So I have one question before you proceed. You're unit 17. So what currently is there or was there so that I can identify which building it is?
It was Talia's restaurant
Okay,
beforehand.
okay.
Good question.
Yep.
Did you see your address is 44 Nashua Road?
Actually, I'm sorry, I was going to ask, do you want my personal address?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 68 Haven Drive, Auburn, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Sorry. I was going to ask and I moved on.
So so Talia's is out of there, it's vacant?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Sadly.
Sadly.
I went there all the time.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Are we okay for him to
Well,
proceed?
Let me ask one other question. Can you say again exactly what you're going to put in there? Is that a restaurant or?
So it's basically, it's a tap room for my brewery, but I currently serve pizza and I plan to serve, cheeseburgers and chicken sandwiches, just like a brew pub.
Where
Like
do
a
you
pub
do that?
now. In Derry.
No, what?
It's Kelson Brewing Company in Derry.
It's a good pizza.
Oh, thank you.
I go there all the time.
Bringing the pizza along. Just plan to add some additional items. Yeah.
So it's like a restaurant and or brew pub with food being served.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And we currently do that now. But I'm being relocated by the Exit 4A project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So currently now I serve my beer. I can serve guest taps if I like. I can serve beer, wine, which I don't, but I could, and seltzer. To offer our customers other options besides Kelson manufactured beer only. But in order to do that, I have to have a brew pub license in order to be able to do that.
So will Derry's still gonna be active, or you'll just move everything?
No,
here?
so I'm setting up a separate production facility in Derry, about 3 miles in the opposite direction of where I'm at now. So unfortunately, I was hoping to keep the brewery and the tap room together, but I wasn't able to. I couldn't find a building that was going to fit. So I'm separating them now. So I'll have a separate production facility in Derry, and then I'll have the tap room in Londonderry.
Okay. All right.
So,
Go ahead.
for clarity, what are you actually manufacturing then in Londonderry?
So I'm allowed, it's a liquor commission has some interesting laws. So in order to get a brew pub license, I have to manufacture no more than 2,000 barrels per year of beer, but there's no minimum. So there's a small corner in the building that's a small room, and I can produce as little as 5 gallons of beer for a brew pub license from the liquor commission, which is the intent. I'm not building
5 gallons minimum per year,
per month.
per month.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can source all the ingredients from my production facility to do that. So there's no minimum, but they just require a small amount being paid in taxes every month to meet the requirements for a brew pub. The larger requirement is food. So as long as I'm serving food, that's the big piece for the license.
Can why couldn't you just be a restaurant and sell beer and all those things in your
So
restaurant?
under the 3-tier system, as a brewery owner, I'm not allowed to own a restaurant. It has to have a brewery attached to it.
Okay.
It can be a little confusing.
So the reason you're asking for a variance is because it's not a change of use, it's a restaurant, but because you're a brewer, it triggers this variance.
Right, to be able to offer cider, seltzer, and guest taps of other local breweries' beers.
Okay, thank you, no, thank
Yep,
you.
yep. Yep.
All right, you may proceed with the 5 points of law.
So the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. I believe that the allowance of a small manufacturing facility at this location wouldn't be contrary. It's almost in line with what we already do as far as serving beer and food to our customers. It wouldn't impede on any of the other businesses around. It's not visible to anybody. It will be maintained in a small, I believe it's actually a 6-foot by 8-foot room in the back corner. And it only needs to be operated once a month. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. As kind of I stated, the addition of a small manufacturing facility that's not visible, is not really having any impact on anybody. We're already in there, making food and everything else. So to add a small system in there would not be, would not be visible. It wouldn't be impacting anybody else surrounding us. Number 3, the substantial justice is done. I guess the ability to offer the general public a greater variety of offerings for our customers is what we're really looking to do. I'm not looking to, put in a big facility, and I'll already have a separate one in Derry, which is already tough enough to operate. So trying to do that in another place would not be good. But being able to do a small amount to offer customers a greater variety when they come in for, food, pizza, the other offerings that we plan to add to the menu, just allows us to reach a greater audience. And that's the main purpose for doing this. The values of surrounding properties are not diminished. As I mentioned, it's completely contained inside the building, and there's no, it's not visible to anybody. It wouldn't be viewed by anybody. I don't think it impedes any property values outside of, or anywhere actually. And the literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. As stated, the current zoning for the building allows for restaurants, and we're not doing anything different than some of the other restaurants around us, besides having to manufacture a small amount of our own product in order to offer these other items to customers. So I don't believe there's any unnecessary hardship to anybody.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Nick, I have a question for you. When I first saw the request for this variance, I had to understand in our ordinances, they're a restaurant and they fit in the definition of what a restaurant is. In manufacturing, when I looked up that, I have light manufacturing and I have heavy manufacturing. They don't fit in light manufacturing. They fit in heavy because they are manufacturing of products from raw or unprocessed materials. Normal operations might include the use of heat, noise, or odor generating, producing processes. So, is a bakery considered heavy manufacturing, not a restaurant?
I suppose it could be.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the request for the variance and the type, because I I thought he would fit in a restaurant because he fits in all that other criteria, and there already was a restaurant there. And I believe Talia's served beer and wine?
I don't know.
No? Not at lunch? All right.
The La Coretta does.
La Coretta does, yep. So, and so doesn't, the Thai restaurant.
Does it?
Yep. So why does it fit in manufacturing, I guess is my question, just before we proceed in case there's something I'm missing.
Well, other breweries in town, we put in that category, they're manufacturers. And because they're taking raw product and turning it into a finished product, that would make them manufacturers.
So if this brewery moves from this location and it has a manufacturing license there, they could manufacture something other than a drink, a beverage.
Well, it depends, you can put the restriction on them, and I'm thinking that you should put a
Yes.
restriction on him that he will, the only manufacturing he'll be doing will be to brew the 5 gallons a month. That he's requesting.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that manufacturing aspect. All right, thank you. Is there any questions from the applicant now that I'm done babbling?
Yes, so the 5th criteria talks about the uniqueness of the property and why the ordinance should not apply to that particular property. Since there are several tenanted units there that all look the same to me, what is special about this particular unit that we would be able to grant you relief from the hardship? The hardship is not for you. The hardship, well, it is for you as it relates, but it has to have some relationship back to the property. And I'm not seeing anything that's unique with this property versus the property next door to it, the next unit over.
I guess maybe I didn't understand that.
Right, it's not easy to understand unless this is what you do, so.
Yeah.
Anybody have any input?
It was the same place I was stuck.
Okay, so the uniqueness, if you can express something that would be so unique about this unit that nothing else could fit in it. It's not good for anything else, that type of hardship. And that's the 5th criteria.
So it has to be that there needs to be a hardship out, like for the actual unit itself needs to be changed because there's no other
So
option.
I guess another way to put it is that there is some type of hardship that you can express that would
okay.
allow us to grant a variance so that you don't have to fit into the criteria of the variance that's required here.
I guess maybe so being forced to only being able to sell your own product in this market is difficult. You had done this before. I did this for a long time, and I had moved to the brew pub in Derry about 8 months ago. I switched the license for that reason because I kept getting customers who were calling up or coming in, and they were not. They'd say, "Oh, I'd like to come in with my family or my spouse, but they don't like beer. Therefore, we don't come here." So that person will come by themselves. So we started getting a lot of that happening, and that's the reason for moving to the brew pub to begin with. And from there, we started getting a lot of, more families coming in, even though we still offered obviously non-alcoholic beverages for kids and stuff. We started getting a lot more people coming in because we offered things other than, our own beer. Even today, I got a request asking if we sold gluten-free products, which we have a gluten-free pizza crust that we use. But 8 months ago, I had to say no. So there's customers lost because I wasn't able to offer a gluten-free product, but now I can because we offer seltzer and cider, which is gluten-free. So I guess for me, it's a customer base. It's reaching out to a larger audience of people to come in who want to come in and enjoy, what we're putting out. But I'm held to only being able to put out beer.
The license that you seek on the state side, it's forcing you to, even though you do sell food and pizza,
Yep.
but it's forcing you to have a minimum brew specification in order to keep your pub license.
Right. I do have to do something there.
If you sold all your other products except the pub part, you could fit in that space because you make pizza.
Right.
So you are manufacturing in some fashion anyways.
Right. I guess, I was always think of it like I buy grain and yeast and I put it together and I make beer and sell it, but I also buy chicken and other things and I put it all together and sell it. So to me, there's no difference really between the two, except that obviously there's quantities and.
So Nick, the brewers are located in the manufacturing zones, and they are allowed to serve food there as well, because they do.
They're allowed to manufacture beer in the industrial zone, but they cannot have a restaurant in the industrial zone unless they have a variance for that. But they are required to provide food for their license to be as a nano. They have to have food available, but not be a full-service restaurant. As a brew pub, they have to be a full-service restaurant. So in order to answer your question, where they manufacture beer, they can provide food, but they cannot be a restaurant without a variance to be a restaurant. Simple?
And we also have a problem with breweries currently who are restaurants. Yes. It's a slippery slope.
Restrictions
That's where
Yeah. So your uniqueness is that you need a place to be a restaurant, but because you're, are you considered a nano brewery?
I'm a brew pub now.
A brew pub.
Yeah.
Because you have that attached, it's forcing you to come here. And your hardship is that you would just be a restaurateur, but because you have that brew pub attached to your food,
Yeah.
it's causing you to come here for that manufacturing piece.
Yeah. To be able to operate the way I am today.
Okay.
So in your current location, that all works fine because you're in Derry.
Right, and I'm zoned for both in that location. That property just happens to be zoned for both.
And we don't have that here in Londonderry.
No, we do not. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Is there anyone in favor of the applicant? Let the record show there is, oh, please come to the mic, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Karen Manella, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire. I'm in favor of this because Londonderry doesn't have a zoning for it, so there's the hardship. So coming forward to the board, he's unable to perform this in Londonderry because you don't offer that. So by him coming here, coming forward and requesting the variance, if it's granted, then he's capable of doing what he wants to be able to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is there anyone against? Let the record show there is no one coming forward in opposition. I'm gonna bring it back to the board for any of the further questions. Okay, we will close this part of the hearing. Do we need to hash anything out? You want to go into the 5 points of law then?
I think we need to talk about number 5.
So we're hashing 5 out.
Okay. All right. All right, we can only do with what we have. So our zoning ordinance, as discussed with Nick, it leads us to the same quandary. So it fits in manufacturing. It's considered heavy manufacturing.
We could curtail that by putting a restriction on it,
Yes.
but I don't know that we still get beyond the issue with the property.
Right, because why would we not have to then approve brew pubs left and right as long as we put the same restriction on it?
Correct.
Because no matter where he goes in Londonderry, it's the same criteria.
Right, but I'm saying, like, where in Londonderry would we say no then if we, without, where would we be able to say no to a brew pub without the same restriction? Like, what would be our reason to say you can't put a brew pub here? Because this is no different than any of the, for instance, stores around it, right?
So we've granted brew pubs, and the brew pubs are having a hard time adhering to those regulations. Hence, we have a problem today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the real answer is if there's no zoning ability, in the zoning ordinance, that somebody needs to look at that, but.
Well, that's why he's here, to try to correct that.
Because where I was kind of going and but to Mitch's point. Now, granted, we do not set precedent, so the whole slippery slope argument that we allow it in one time, we have to allow it every place else. And although every person makes that argument, it's not a legitimate argument.
No, it's not, but it's hard to.
I understand.
And because our ordinances can't come up with every single scenario, it's cases like this that we have to really make sure that it's documented, how we came about, whatever we're gonna come about when we go to vote. And if we have clarification on our ordinances that are needed, that also has to be spoken. Because we only have so much power. We can only do what we have here.
Well, I think our problem, if you can't get through A and B on 5 and you go to the third, can you use the property for something else? I mean, the property can be used for something else.
It most certainly can be used for something else. So the applicant wouldn't be able to go anywhere in Londonderry to continue his business because of the way that we have our ordinances.
Is that correct? No place you could do that.
Well, because he's a restaurant,
Right.
so because the state requirements
Because of, he's also,
a brew pub, so he's gonna do the minimum just to keep that license.
okay. So Nick,
Go ahead.
Nick, there is no place that this would work in our current ordinance that you know, I mean, you may not know, I grant that. But did you already answer this?
Yes,
Okay,
There was no place.
okay.
because you can't do a restaurant in industrial.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we've been through that.
Yeah, so we have this where.
The petitioner must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other land in the area. I don't.
I mean, the problem is the property's not unique
Right.
at all. There's just no way around it. And it's the way that all the different regulations interact. It's just, there's nothing around it, no way around it.
All right, yeah.
Well. And that's why someone comes for relief. It's just, that's why they come, because they don't fit into the criteria.
They don't, but then if you fall to the next one, can the property be used for something else? Yes.
It can be.
Right.
So anybody that's a brew pub cannot do business in Londonderry with us?
I mean, the town can make a zoning restriction, that, yeah,
I think.
the town can make a decision, like, remember, people under 2 acres couldn't have chickens, doesn't matter. how-
Well, the zoning ordinances would have to change, but,
Right,
so tonight and for this variance, we have to hash this out to see if there's an answer here, or if there's absolutely no answer.
Well, there's an answer one way or the other, but
based
Well-
on the
well,
five
we have-
criteria, I think, is the answer. That's what our charge is.
So we can address all of the types of business within our variances, but we have a black hole if someone is a brew pub in our town? That's just the question.
that appears to be true.
Okay.
Can I go through 5 points?
Let's do the 5
Madam
points.
Chair, could I just add a
Yes.
comment?
Please.
Another alternative is to continue the application to afford the opportunity to get some more information if the board would like.
More information in regards to the state requirement or from the applicant?
Any part of the application that you may have additional questions on that we can't answer this evening.
Madam Chair, and I would just add, I mean, I think the board's analysis is exactly correct, that when it comes down to voting, it's the 5 points of law. But I also think that to some of the comments that I've heard, it can't be the case that brew pubs are not permitted in Londonderry. And so whether we need to talk about a change to the zoning ordinance that doesn't result in that absurd result, or whether we can work to try to gather more information that might be of assistance to the board. Obviously, if the applicant wants to go forward, the applicant is entitled to go forward. But I'm suggesting that I think we're concerned by the same things that the board is concerned about.
Okay. Would you be willing, sir, to go to so that we could gather more information on our side for this quandary that we've uncovered.
Yeah.
We would push you off to, our next meeting is
March 19th, April 19th?
Continue.
continued.
Continued.
We're continuing.
Sorry.
Sorry.
April 19th,
April 19th.
I think it is.
Thank you.
April 19th, okay. And would you allow us, would you like to continue to April 19th so we have more information?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion for
I'd like to make a
continuance?
motion to continue case number 315-2023-4 to the April 19th, 2023 meeting.
I will second.
Second, okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll see you April 19th.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. You ready?
Chris is.
Chris is gone.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone.
Maybe he went for a bio break.
Okay.
All right. Call to order the March 17th, 2023 Zoning Board of Adjustment. Next case, please.
Case number 315-2023-5, a request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.5.b to allow an existing sign with height of 17 feet where a maximum of 10 feet is permitted in the Route 102 POD and C1 District, 107 Nashua Road, Map 6, Lot 35-1, Zone C1, and Route 102 POD, 107 Nashua Road Properties LLC owner and John Manellis applicant.
6 and 8.
Not off the hook this time.
There it is.
Perfect.
So, good evening. My name's Paul Botting from ProSource Signs out of Derry. My address is 15 Compromise Lane in Sandown, New Hampshire. I'm joined by John and Karen Manellis.
I'm Karen Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
And I'm John Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Okay, so we're requesting a variance for the business of AutoCare Plus. It's a variance requested from 4.6.6.7.f.5.b. To be able to use an existing sign, which is 17 feet tall, where the maximum height allowed is 10 feet. So the sign in question is a legally pre-existing sign that was in conformance with code prior to the establishment of the Route 102 Corridor Performance Overlay District. As such, AutoCare Plus are seeking a variance to reuse the existing legally pre-existing sign structure by repainting the metalwork, upgrading the interior lighting to LED to be more environmentally friendly and to reduce energy consumption, and installing new sign faces to direct traffic to their location. And there is a very similar sign in the next building, which is similar height, which was, I think it's already been granted a variance and it's in use today. So do you want me to go through the 5 points?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The variance doesn't alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Refurbishment of the legally pre-existing pole sign will improve the appearance of the property. The spirit of the ordinance is observed. The spirit of the ordinance will be observed by allowing the use of a legally pre-existing pole sign. Substantial justice is done. There is no injustice to the general public by granting this variance. There is an injustice to AutoCare Plus if the legally pre-existing pole sign cannot be utilized. As I said before, a similar sign at 103 Nashua Road is in use, and it's had sign faces replaced not too long ago. Values of surrounding properties are not diminished. The legally pre-existing pole sign has stood in this location for many years without negative impact on surrounding property owners. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. So the pole sign is a legally pre-existing sign. Not being able to reuse this sign will mean a new sign will have to be constructed. Granting this variance will alleviate the hardship. And the proposed use is a reasonable one. The signage at 107 Nashua Road will not face a residential neighborhood or directly face other businesses. The pole sign will greatly help passing traffic identify the location of AutoCare Plus. So we believe a hardship has been established in the preceding paragraph.
Are there any questions from the board?
Do you have a photo of the existing sign now?
Yeah, I think in the packet I submitted there.
So the sign's already up?
No, this is of the proposed refacing the
So my
sign.
question was, do you
Well,
have a
the-
picture of the existing sign as it looks today?
Did you add that?
Oh, I didn't.
Right now, it's actually just the empty box, but you can see the bulbs going across, so it's that, but just with no actual signage inside of it.
I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but that sign looks pretty wide. Is the existing sign?
That's, we're seeking a variance for that as well.
That's
There's
the next
four,
one, okay.
Four variances, all to do with this one sign, the first.
So the picture of the proposed pole sign that you have in our packets,
Yes,
is that, other than the writing, is that the sign that's there today?
it's exactly the sign that's there today.
That's exactly the sign that's there.
That size?
Yes. All we're going to do is repaint refurbish the look of the sign and put new internal lighting inside it and put new faces on
Okay.
the
So
sign.
your next variance is not asking for that sign to be larger?
Not that one.
No.
That's the one in the building.
No, we were asked to separate variances for every point
Okay. I'm not
of
getting an
the
answer.
height, the size of the sign, and so on and so on.
Are you talking about two different signs, one on the
It's not going
building
to be
and one
bigger,
on the?
or it is going to be
pole?
bigger?
No, this first variance is to do with
It's not going to be bigger.
just
Okay, thank
for the
you.
pole
This
sign.
one is existing.
This is the pole sign.
So you're gonna take that existing, so the picture that we have right now, proposed pole sign, is exactly what's there today, other than like the writing for your
Yes. We
business.
just superimposed
And
it
you're
with what the sign-
superimposed on
Yes.
that structure.
Correct.
And that's exactly the structure that's standing there today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Go ahead, Mitch.
So I drove past and I saw that sign. It didn't look like in great condition. Is it needing additional work? I'm just, when you think of safety issues, looked kind of old and worn out.
It's the structure is sound. It's a metal pole. It's just that the lighting inside is old fluorescent tubes. It has to be replaced because and basically we're going to refurb it, repaint it to make it look nice and everything, and put new faces in. That's it.
Yeah, an observation doesn't tell me if it's sound, but it just looked old and I wondered about it. Okay,
So it's a non-conforming,
right,
okay,
at that much.
today.
Yes.
Okay. I do have a question. There's two pieces to that sign. So
Yes.
what is the superimposed one? I'll just use that photo. So the very top half, Auto Care Plus, that superimposed square. If that was taken down and just where you have electrified Auto Care, if that became the sign, then would you fit into the height requirement? Would that is there 7 feet? Because I don't have an actual size.
It's the existing height is about 17 feet, and the maximum height allowed by the ordinance is 10 feet.
But that sign is not 7 feet tall.
So is that top piece,
No.
if this was taken off, would you fit in, would this be conforming?
Just with the bottom.
Yeah, just with the
panel.
bottom,
No, it'd still be too high.
because I don't have any measurements in which to make that conclusion.
Right. It's about, the top box is about 2.5 feet wide.
Okay, so,
High, I should say.
all right, so you would still need to come to us because it
Yes.
still would be too high. Okay. Any other questions? So I have, it's a pole sign. Why can't we bring it down to the 10 feet?
Well, if it was taken down to the 10 feet,
Yep.
there's a couple of other things as well. It's in the Route 102 overlay district. When Route 102 was improved, I believe the level of it was raised, so making it shorter would make it more difficult to see from the street.
Nick, I have a quick question on the Route 102 overlay. The 10-foot is our standard. Okay,
It wasn't at the time that that sign was put.
okay. Okay.
It's about the same height.
So the other example, that
Yep.
exhibit that he gave actually is our neighbor's right next door, and it's about the same height, that Renegade's Pub. And so, see, right where the car is in the back, parked kind of on the dirt, that this sign that we're proposing is actually standing there, right behind that area. So, and they did just get granted.
Yeah, they've refaced that sign with 3 new faces.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they got a variance for it.
No, but I thought you said they did get a variance.
I assume they got a variance,
Oh, you
otherwise they
assumed.
shouldn't, they
Okay,
shouldn't
I
have,
thought, okay,
they shouldn't have done it.
all right. I thought you found it.
I don't recall that.
Okay, no other further questions from the board. I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Anyone for the applicant that would like to speak? Let the record show there is none. Anybody opposed? Let the record also reflect there is no one. Any other further questions from the board? I know there's another question that I have to ask you before I close and we go into deliberations here.
Yeah, how about the butcher across the street? Did they get a variance?
Is that 10 feet?
Because I know they built it fairly recently.
Did they?
Yeah.
It looks like it's the style.
You should ask, because he doesn't give a good reason, but they'll come.
So your unnecessary hardship. So number 5, it's always the hardest one out of all the questions for the 5 points of law.
Yep.
The hardship for this property. You have to answer what that unnecessary hardship is for this property. And you didn't do that.
Could it be a visibility issue?
That's what I think it is.
Because
you
it
can't-
is,
Can't see the sign as it is.
yeah. It's also low to the ground, less visible. If you go within the.
When you came before the board
Well, yes, we have an issue. with-
prior for your other
the lot.
variance,
Yes.
your hardship,
It's landlocked.
so would you like to address the hardship?
Yes. We're landlocked there. So we're actually, there's no access from Nashua Road. There's also no access from the back road. So we are crossing over other people's property at this location. So we are essentially landlocked.
Thank
there.
you.
I think there are other issues there as well.
There are a lot of other hardships there as well, yes. But the applicant only needs to give us one.
Property lines too.
Do we have any other questions before? Okay, we're gonna close.
Okay.
Do we have to hash anything out, or can we go into the 5 points of law?
I'm fine going with 5 points.
I'm good. Okay,
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because. Let's say would not.
Agreed.
It's an
agree.
An existing sign,
Not gonna alter the character of the neighborhood.
right.
Maybe these we have 4.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because.
Say would.
I agree.
Agree.
Poses no threat to health, safety, or general welfare.
Agreed.
Provides service actually letting people know where the,
It does provide a service to the
Businesses.
public, yeah,
especially in that high traffic area
off of
where
102.
everyone is speeding.
Yep.
Granted the variance would or would not do substantial justice because,
You would agree?
Would.
I would say would. Granting the variance, there's no loss to the public by granting the variance.
Agree.
Correct.
For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. I would say would not.
Would not.
Existing sign. Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because.
It's not.
Is not.
I agree.
What's the reason it's not?
It's on, they have no access from
Yeah, we had this conversation.
I'm-
You said there were
102.
other reasons as well.
Yeah, I'm not going with the access. I'm going, well, they still need to be able to get into the property, but
They
then it's
still,
a high
but they need to
traffic
see,
area.
yeah, it's high traffic right there, and they need to see that that's where they're located.
Okay.
To be honest, you coming,
Yeah.
going out towards the road, you can't highway, you couldn't, you can barely see that sign as it is.
Correct.
I agree.
So that was really my,
Visibility.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Okay, thanks.
good with that.
I'm good with that.
You so-
I just noticed my chair is,
I had that chair last time and I switched.
oh, that's nice.
Not this meeting, the previous.
Proposed use is or is not a reasonable one, is.
Is.
Signs are reasonable.
We've been there.
Is.
Comments, restrictions,
I got none.
not for me.
Presented, so-
No. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315, 2023-5 to grant the request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.5.b to allow an existing sign with a height of 17 feet where a maximum of 10 feet is permitted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
In case number 315, 2023-5, the request for a variance was granted. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Case number 315, 2023-6, a request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.c.i to allow an existing sign with area of 63 square feet where a maximum of 30 square feet is permitted in the Route 102 POD and C1 District, 107 Nashua Road, Map 6, Lot 35-1, Zone C1 and Route 102 POD, 107 Nashua Road Properties LLC owner and John Manellis applicant.
All right, what do we have on this one?
So state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Paul Botting. My address is 15 Compromise Lane, Sandown.
Karen Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
John Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
And I believe all of your answers are exactly as the previous case we just heard.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions on this variance for the applicant?
Yeah, I don't understand what we're doing. So we're now asking for a sign. Which sign are we talking about?
The, so this is the sign on the pole that we just saw.
Right. So it was a legally conforming sign before the 102 overlay district.
So this is, we're not on the wall yet. We're still at
Still
the
on the
pole.
Pole sign.
So again, it's going to be the same size as it was.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly the
That it
same.
is now.
Well, is it up? Is there anything there?
The old sign.
No,
Yeah,
it's still
the
there.
old sign,
Okay,
yeah.
Again, just
Oh,
no
yeah.
faces.
So do we have any questions of the applicant?
Nope.
Okay. But, go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out which one of these is the wall sign.
That's next, but
I
not
think
now.
the wall sign
Yeah,
might just be
this
the
is not-
ninth, the last one.
Yeah, we don't care about what's in the future, just
Oh,
this
is it
one
not-
right
I
now.
didn't see the one in the
Yeah.
back. Okay,
Madam
got it.
Chairwoman, the first one was for a height variance, now this is for area
Got
variance.
it.
Area.
I didn't
So I was
see the-
confused too,
this
I thought
one.
this was the wall sign. Okay,
I'm
never
good.
mind.
Okay,
Excuse,
perfect.
Got it.
I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Anyone for the applicant? Let the record show there is no one. Anyone opposed? Let the record show there is no one. Bringing it back to the board for any last questions of the applicant regarding the pole sign for the square area. Okay, we're gonna close this part. Can we go into the 5 points, or do we have to ash anything out? Okay, 5
Fine.
points.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because, I would say would not. It's an existing sign,
See our prior
see prior.
Yep.
incorporating our.
I agree.
Okay.
This is when I wish we had cut and paste.
Well, I know, I was gonna write the exact same thing and then I wrote see prior case and
Yes.
it's the same amount of words.
Yeah.
Yeah. The spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because, I would say it would,
Would.
same reason. Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because, I would say would,
Would.
same reason. For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding property would or would not be diminished.
Would not.
I agree. Same reasons.
Same reasons.
Now, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because, I would say there is not for the same reasons.
I agree.
And the proposed use is a reasonable one.
Signs are reasonable.
Comments, restrictions.
Nope. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-6 to grant the request for a variance.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-6, the request for a variance was granted.
Just two more. But two more on this sign.
Because we're still on the poll.
I'm not going there. 10 feet.
Case number 315-2023-7, a request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.5.d to allow an existing sign within 10 feet of the front property line in the Route 102 POD and C1 district, 107 Nashville Road, map 6, lot 35-1, zone C1 and Route 102 POD, 107 Nashville Road Properties LLC owner, John Manellis, applicant.
Okay, my name is Paul Botting, 15 Compromise Lane, Sandown. I'm from ProSource Signs in Derry.
Karen Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
And John Manella, 6 Longview Circle in Pelham, New Hampshire.
And is the information for this case number 315-2023-7 the same as previously presented?
Yes.
Okay, and this one is to allow a sign within 10 feet from the front property line, so we are still talking about the pole sign from the previous two.
In your package, there should be a plan view of
Yes.
of the building showing the location of the existing sign and where it would need to move to.
So that pole sign's going to stay right where it is.
Yes.
Okay. Where it's previously been for the last 30 years.
Something like that, yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I have one question. Nick, 10 feet within the road, and I guess we don't usually allow that. Is that a substantial safety issue on 102?
Safety and sight distance. And
Okay.
I believe in this instance, the reason it ended up closer to the road was because the state took property and widened 102.
I see. That's good to know.
True hardship.
Wasn't always that close.
Can't do much about that.
Okay. Any questions?
No more? No.
Okay. I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Anyone in favor? Let the record show there is no one. Anyone in opposition? And there is no one. Taking it back to the board one last time. Okay. I'm gonna close this part to the public, and are we ready for the 5 points of law?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because, I would say would not,
Would not?
same reasons as
Agree.
previous.
Yes.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed, I would say would,
Agree.
same reasons. Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice, I would say it would,
Agree.
same reasons. For the following reasons, the value of surrounding properties would or would not be diminished, I would say would not,
Would not agree.
same reasons. Owing to special conditions to the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because, I'd say is not for the same reasons as previously discussed.
Agree.
Proposed use is or is not a reason one, it is, signs are reasonable.
Agreed.
Comments, restrictions.
None. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-7 to grant the request for a variance.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-7, the request for a variance was granted. Case number 315-2023-8, a request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.e.I to allow an existing pole sign, whereas a monument sign is required in the Route 102 POD, C1 District, 107 Nashville Road, map 6, lot 35-1, zone C1, and Route 102 POD, 107 Nashville Road Properties LLC owner, and John Manellis applicant.
Okay. Once again, my name is Paul Botting, address 15 Compromise Lane in Sandham. I'm with ProSource Signs.
Karen Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
John Manellis, Auto Care, no,
No,
I'm sorry.
6 Longview.
6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire. I am with Auto Care.
Now you know how we feel up here.
I know.
Okay, we are still on the pole sign, whereas a monument sign type is required for this variance. Do you have any questions from the board?
The monument sign would be terrible there.
Okay, no questions. I'm gonna take it out to the audience. Anyone in favor, let the record show there is no one. Anyone in opposition? There is no one. Bring it back to the board. Any questions? Okay, we're gonna close the public portion. Let's do the 5 points of law.
Granting the
We're all set?
granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because, I would say would not, for the same reasons previously discussed.
Agreed.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed, I would say it would, for the reasons we previously discussed.
I agree.
Yeah, having that type of sign there would be blocking, I think that would be a bigger safety issue.
Oh, definitely.
Monument sign, yeah.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice to CUD, say would.
Would agree.
Yes.
For the same reasons.
For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished, I would say would not, for the same reasons we discussed.
Agreed.
Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because, I would say there is not for the reasons we previously discussed.
I agree.
The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one, I would say it is. Signs are reasonable as we discussed previously.
Agreed.
Comments, restrictions? No.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-8 to grant the request for a variance.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-8, the request for a variance was granted. Case number 315-2023-9, a request for a variance from LZO 4.6.6.7.f.4.b to allow a wall sign with an area of 96 square feet where a maximum of 34 square feet is permitted in the Route 102 POD and C1 District, 107 Nashua Road, Map 6, Lot 35-1, Zone C1, and Route 102 POD, 107 Nashua Road Properties LLC owner and John Manellis applicant.
Okay, just in case anybody forgot, my name is Paul Botting. My address is 15 Compromise Lane in Sandown. I'm with ProSource Signs.
Karen Manellis, 6 Longview Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire.
And John Manellis from 6 Longview Circle in Pelham, New Hampshire.
Okay, so this one is different than the previous, so you will need to do the 5 points of law for us, please.
Right, this is for a building wall sign as opposed to the pole sign. So this is a proposed wall sign will be greater than 30 square feet. The facade of the building at 107 Nashua Road is 2,100 square feet. Route 102 corridor performance overlay district regulation 4.6.6.7.f.4.a specifies that a wall sign shall cover no more than 20% of the square footage of the facade. The proposed sign is well under that size, but 4.6.6.7.f.4.b restricts the maximum size of a wall sign to 30 square feet. AutoCare Plus contend that for a building of the size of 107 Nashua Road, the 30 square feet maximum size for a wall sign is unreasonably small. AutoCare Plus request a sign size of 96 square feet be allowed to brand their new location, making it easier for clients to identify it and to be consistent with branding on other nearby AutoCare Plus locations. Variance will not be contrary to the public interest. This variance will not alter the essential character of the neighbourhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. 96 square foot wall sign will greatly help the public to identify the building that AutoCare Plus occupies. It's set quite far back from the road, and it's lower than the level of the road. The spirit of the ordinance is observed. The spirit of the ordinance will be observed by allowing a reasonably sized wall sign to identify the location of AutoCare Plus. Substantial justice is done. There is no injustice to the general public by granting this variance. There is an injustice to AutoCare Plus if the size of the wall sign is restricted to 30 square feet, as it, in our opinion, it's unreasonably small compared to the size of the building. The values of the surrounding properties are not diminished. A 96 square foot wall sign will not have a negative impact on surrounding property owners, as there are no properties directly facing the front of the building. Okay, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and specific application of that provision to the property. A wall sign restricted to 30 square foot on a building facade of 21,000 square feet will not make it easy for clients to identify the building where AutoCare Plus is located. Granting the variance will alleviate these hardships. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The wall sign at 107 Nashua Road will not face a residential neighbourhood or directly face other businesses. The wall sign will serve to direct customers to the building where AutoCare Plus is located, as there is no direct access to the business from Route 102. Access is via Horizon Drive. So this sign will make it easier for passing traffic to actually see which building AutoCare Plus is located in.
Again, that falls back on the prior hardship where we don't have our own driveway and we're landlocked and we have to cross over a property in the front as well as property in the back that 107 Nashua Road Properties does not own.
So it's believed that a hardship is established in the paragraph above. And there were some graphics included in the packet. There was a representation of what a 30 square foot sign would look like on the building compared to a 96 square foot. That's to scale. The size of the sign is to scale with the size of the building. There are a picture of other local AutoCare Plus locations in Derry and Manchester with similar size signs.
I do want to point out again, I don't know with the situation whether variance or not, but Renegade Pub has one story, we have 2 stories there. And they're also smaller footage footprint, and their sign is very comparable to the larger one, certainly not the smaller one.
So we don't compare variances because that case was unique for whatever reasons at that time.
Okay, all right, understood.
So what you're saying is, our variance calls for 30 square feet. If your building was 5 times this size, and you told me that it justified 5 times the size of what our variance is, just because your building is big, doesn't mean that you get a bigger sign. So the 5 points of law and how that applies for the public's safety and welfare, the safety of the public, and how that sign, why you should be allowed a larger sign on the criteria of the 5 points of law, not because your building is bigger. So you answered all the 5 points of law in regards to the uniqueness and, 1 through 5. Okay. Do we have any questions? Okay, I'm gonna bring it out to the general public. Anyone in favor? And there is none. And anyone opposed? There is no one left. All right, if there's no further questions from the board, we're ready to go. 5 points of law.
Granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because, I would say would not.
Would not.
For the essential character of the neighborhood.
It does not.
Spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because, I would say it would. It actually serves the purpose of making it easier to identify the building.
It very much so, able to identify the building. Yes, I agree.
I also agree, if you have a bigger building, you should have a bigger sign, and I've been saying that for a long time, so I'll just say it again for whoever might be listening. FedEx building, web.
It's an identification.
Yes, if you
to
have
be
a
able
big
to
building, you
identify
need to
it.
be able to see it from various angles.
And this particular, going down that 102 corridor and how fast you're going,
Yes.
if it was only 30 square feet, you'd miss it. You totally would miss it.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because, I would say it would.
Would.
No loss to the public by having a larger sign.
Would agree.
For the following reasons, the values of the surrounding property would or would not be diminished. I would say would not.
Would not.
A larger sign has no impact on that. Owing to special conditions to the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because I would say there is not.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I agree.
The property is in a high traffic area.
It doesn't have the customary entrance.
Visibility
It's
is-
easily missed. Visibility is poor.
Right. Proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because. I'd say it is, signs are reasonable. Comments, restrictions.
I got nothing. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 315-2023-9 to grant the request for a variance.
Do I have a-
LZO 4.6.6.7.f.4.b to allow a wall sign with an area at 96 square feet where a maximum of 30 square feet is permitted.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
In case number 315-2023-9, the request for a variance was granted.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Anything else on the agenda?
Communications and miscellaneous. Do we have any communications for this evening that the board needs to be aware of?
Just an update regarding the, rehearing for the case you considered last meeting. The applicant has requested to be on the April meeting as they couldn't make this evening, so you'll see that in April.
Okay, and that's on the daycare, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Any other business? We're good. Do I have a motion for an adjournment?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.